The station had a way of groaning that felt personal, as if the metal itself wanted to file a complaint. I'd learned to ignore it somewhere between my third unpaid repair and my fifth near-death experience, which meant I was in a pretty good mood when I nearly tripped over a body in Corridor D. "Wow," I muttered, steadying myself. "If you wanted attention, you could have just spilled coolant like everyone else." She didn't move. That was usually the point where my brain split into two arguments. One, insisting this was above my pay grade. The other, reminding me I didn't actually have a pay grade. The second one won, as usual. I crouched, careful not to kneel in whatever dark substance had pooled beneath her armor. Frontier stations had a nasty habit of making all fluids look equally lethal. "You alive?" I asked. Blink once for yes, twice for please don't touch me. I'm a terrifying warlord. Her eyes opened. That was new. They focused on me with unsettling calm, and for a half-second, I considered apologizing for the joke. Then I noticed the ears, long, smooth, folded back slightly, as if listening to something far away. Definitely not human. Definitely not a species I'd memorized, which was impressive, considering boredom had once driven me to read a 600-page xenobiology manual. "Well," I said, relieved she wasn't dead. "That answers the mystery and raises several new ones." She tried to move and stopped herself. A controlled pause that suggested pain had been weighed, measured, and deemed inconvenient rather than overwhelming. That alone told me she was a professional something. "Don't get up," I said quickly. "Station gravity's been doing leg day." I reached for my kit, then hesitated. "I should clarify," I added. "This is help, not capture, not interrogation, and definitely not a marriage proposal. That's a different toolkit." Her gaze sharpened at that, and for just a moment, the corner of her mouth twitched. Not a smile, more like an acknowledgement that humor had occurred. "Your armor's locking you in," I said, more to fill the silence than anything. "Happens when the impact sensors panic. They mean well." I worked the release with a multi-tool that had seen better centuries, humming tunelessly while the corridor lights flickered. Somewhere, far away, the station's defense grid adjusted its targeting. I didn't notice. I was busy arguing with a stripped bolt. "You fell hard," I went on. "Pirates? Raiders? Existential despair?" "Neither," she said. Her voice was steady, not weak. That should have tipped me off. Instead, I nodded like this was all perfectly normal. "Ah," I replied. "Tuesday, then." The armor finally relaxed with a hiss, releasing tension I hadn't realized it was holding. She exhaled once, slow and deliberate, and sat up slightly. I offered an arm without thinking. She took it. That was when every ender in the corridor died. "I know that." "Huh," I said. "That's not ideal." She looked past me, listening again. The long ears angled, catching something I couldn't hear. Whatever she sensed made her expression unreadable in a way that felt intentional. "You should go," she said. "Can't," I replied. "I've already committed to the bit. Also, if I leave now, you'll bleed on my conscience, and those stains never come out." I patched a cracked seam, sealing it with a polymer strip and a prayer to any deity still accepting walk-ins. She watched my hands, not with fear or suspicion, but curiosity, as if no one had ever done this for her without asking permission first. "You are not afraid," she observed. I snorted. "Oh, I am deeply afraid. Just not of you, mostly of unpaid invoices and structural collapse." Something shifted in the air. Not physically, more like the pause before an orchestra realizes the conductor has changed. Footsteps echoed at the far end of the corridor, heavy, while many. I glanced back. "Friends of yours?" "Yes," she said. That was when they appeared. Armed, armored, organized in a way that screamed authority. And then, without hesitation, they stopped and lowered themselves to one knee. I looked at her, then at them, then back at her. "So," I said carefully, "I'm guessing the tea offer is about to become diplomatic." They stayed kneeling long enough for it to get awkward, which is how I knew it was serious. If it had been a performance, someone would have cleared their throat or shouted a ceremonial phrase. Instead, there was only the low hum of the station returning to life, lights flickering back on as if nothing socially catastrophic had just happened. I raised a finger halfway, then lowered it again. "I don't want to interrupt," I said quietly, "but if this is about parking violations, I swear I paid last cycle." None of them reacted. Not a flinch, not a glare. Their attention was fixed entirely on her. She shifted her weight, testing the repaired seam. When she stood, she didn't pull away from me right away. That detail stuck in my head later, like a loose wire sparking at random moments. "Rise," she said. They did, all at once, clean, precise. I'd seen militaries before, human, alien hybrid, and this wasn't discipline born of fear. This was loyalty that had seemed fear was inefficient. One of them stepped forward, taller than the rest, char across the cheek plate. "We felt the perimeter go dark," they said. "We feared—" "I fell," she replied. Silence again. Then chatter. "It seems I was caught." Their collective attention slid to me. I felt it physically, like gravity nudging sideways. "Oh no," I muttered. "I've been noticed." The tall one studied me. Sensors whirred. Data likely streamed across as their visor. Biometrics, criminal history, outstanding debts. I hoped the debts looked more intimidating than they were. "He assisted you," the figure said. "Yes." Without warning, they bowed. Not the kneeling kind this time. A warrior's acknowledgement. I nearly dropped my toolkit. "Please don't," I said. "I bruise easily." She looked at me then. Really looked. And there was something unreadable in her eyes. Not surprise, not gratitude. Assessment. As if she were recalculating an equation that had always assumed humans were variables best avoided. "Why?" she asked. I blinked. "Why what?" "Why help?" I shrugged. "You were down, I was up. Seemed like a design flaw not to correct it." That earned me a few confused glances from the kneeling, not kneeling anymore warriors. One of them tilted their head, ears flicking in an echo of hers. That was when I realized they all shared that trait. Long ears, elegant, definitely not decorative. You did not ask who I was, she said. I figured you'd tell me if it mattered, I replied. Also, people with secret identities usually prefer the mystery. A pause, then unexpectedly, a quiet sound escaped her. A breath that wasn't quite laughter, but lived close enough to borrow its shoes. We should leave this place, she said. It draws attention. I live here, I said. Well, occupy. Squat with ambition. She considered that. Then she turned to the tall one. Prepare a transport. That did it. I held up both hands. Okay, important clarification. If this is an abduction, I need at least 5 minutes to pack and an explanation for my neighbor. He worries. It is not an abduction, she said. It is a conversation. The warriors formed a perimeter, efficient and unnervingly polite about it. As we moved, the stations seemed to shrink back, corridors widening just enough, doors unlocking before we reached them. I'd spent years fighting this place for basic functionality. Apparently, all it took was her walking through it. On the transport, no one sat until she did. She gestured to a seat beside her. I hesitated. This feels like a trap where I end up agreeing to something life-altering. Possibly, she said. Well, at least you're honest. The engines engaged with a soft hum that made my teeth buzz. Stars slid into view, smeared into lines as we jumped. I focused on breathing, like I hadn't just left my entire life behind, because I tripped over the wrong person. You have no fear of consequence, she said after a while. Oh, I do, I replied. I just find it rude to let it drive. She watched me again, that same thoughtful stillness. In my people's territory, she said, help is transactional. Power is visible. Compassion is managed. And yet, I said, you were lying on a station floor with a busted armor seal. Yes. I leaned back. Sounds like your system has bugs. Another almost laugh. This one warmer. When we arrive, she continued, many will see you as a problem. Story of my life. And some, she added, will see you as dangerous. I winced. I left my dramatic cape at home. Her gaze softened, not by much, but enough. You changed something, she said, without meaning to. That's also a pattern, I admitted. The transport slowed. Ahead, lights bloomed in complex patterns, structures layered over one another, moving like living things. Power thrummed through the hull, ancient and deliberate. She stood. The others followed. Welcome, she said, to a place where no one offers help freely. I swallowed. Lucky me. As the doors opened, I had the unsettling realization that whatever I'd fixed in her armor, I'd broken something far larger. And somehow, she didn't seem inclined to repair it. By the time we reached the inner hall, I had learned 3 things. First, no one here walked casually. Second, every surface had opinions about who was allowed to touch it. Third, I was definitely underdressed for a place that could silence a crowd by adjusting the lighting. The hall itself wasn't grand in the way humans usually overdid things. No towering statues or gold-plated egos. Instead, the space curved inward, as if listening. Figures stood along the perimeter. Warriors, advisors, administrators, all with those long ears angled slightly toward the center, toward her. She stopped walking. Everyone else stopped existing. I leaned closer and whispered, "If this is where you tell me you rule everything, I just want it on record that I suspected it exactly 12 minutes ago and did nothing useful with that information." Her mouth twitched. "You suspected?" "I hoped," I corrected. "It would explain the parking privileges." She stepped forward alone. I stayed where I was, which felt wise. Power radiated from her now, not in waves, but in certainty. This was a presence that didn't need to announce itself. It simply waited for the universe to catch up. "I was helped without condition," she said, her voice carrying effortlessly. "No inquiry into my rank, no calculation of benefit, no hesitation." A murmur passed through the hall, sharp and uneasy. "In our territory," she continued, "aid is granted by hierarchy. Strength decides worth. And yet, today, an outsider bypassed every layer of that system by doing something unremarkable." I raised a finger. "In my defense, I trip over unremarkable daily." A few ears flicked. I chose to believe that was amusement. She turned, finally, and extended a hand toward me, not summoning, inviting. I walked to her side. My legs worked, which felt like a win. "This human," she said, "has altered nothing by force. He has challenged nothing directly. And yet, the foundation has shifted." The tall warrior from before stepped forward. "What is your will?" She considered the room, then me. "My will," she said, "is that he leaves freely." Every ear snapped upright. "And," she added, "that he is offered what was denied him before." I blinked. "Snacks?" A ripple moved through the hall. Definitely laughter this time. "He will be given safe passage," she said, "resources, and the right to refuse any bond, oath, or obligation implied by this moment." I stared at her. "You're letting me go?" "Yes." "That's unexpected." She inclined her head. "So was your kindness." The tension broke, slowly, like ice deciding it had lost the argument. The warriors stepped back. The hall exhaled. As we walked away, she spoke quietly. "You could have stayed. Many would have followed." "I know," I said. "But then I'd start worrying about budgets and coups. I'm bad at both." She smiled fully then, unguarded. It changed her face in a way no rank ever could. At the transport, she stopped me. "You will be spoken of." I'd prefer fondly. "You will be confused," she said. "That is rare here." I considered that. Where I'm from, it's a lifestyle. She reached out and adjusted the collar of my jacket, a gesture so small it felt heavier than ceremony. "If our paths cross again," she said, "it will be because you chose it." The doors closed, the transport lifted. As the stars stretched and the territory fell away, I leaned back and let out a breath I'd been holding since the station floor. I hadn't gained power. I hadn't taken a side. I hadn't even fixed the system. But I had learned something. That sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do in a universe obsessed with hierarchy was treat someone like a person. I checked my toolkit, still scuffed, still ordinary. Then I smiled. Turns out, being unremarkable had its advantages.